On Nationwide this evening, we travel to Fenit to meet the locals and to see the attractions of the area. We find out how a film project has captured the changing face of the village in recent times, and we hear the story of the tragic loss of life and the statue to remember those who died at sea.
Well, you're very welcome to Fenit.
Thank you very much for having me, James. Yeah, I'm looking forward to my little trip around.
I should have a cup of coffee and we'll have a walk around it.
Love to.
Okay.
I've come to Fenit to meet James McCarthy, a local professional photographer. His work takes him to communions, confirmations, local events and, of course, weddings. James works with his wife Catherine from a studio at the back of their house in Fenit.
The main work in photography is wedding photography. I think everybody wants to be able to do wedding photography because it's probably the hardest, you know. You can go out there and take a landscape or a seascape and you have hours to do it. But when you are doing a wedding, it's seconds. You have only seconds to get that photograph. The rings, the candles, all that kind of stuff, you've only seconds because they won't get married tomorrow again for you, you know, so you have to get it right on the day.
What happened in June 2011 that was to change your life?
I suppose it's one day in our life that we'll never forget. I always remember because it was the 3rd of June 2011, the hottest day of the year. I'll always remember that. And we're just doing a little bit of shopping in Tralee on our way home when your life changes. An accident happens. Myself, my wife and my daughter were all involved in the accident, and it was a really, really serious accident. I fractured my leg 6 places, broke my elbow, fractured ribs. My wife was probably a lot more serious than I was. She's broke her arm, she had over a metre of a bowel removed, and her neck was badly damaged as well, and she was 9 days in a coma. I always remember when I was in Tralee General Hospital, which the staff were absolutely fantastic, I have to say that. They was wheeling me down in the wheelchair because I was bound to a wheelchair for 5 months. And I suppose it was heartbreaking to see your wife just lying there, I suppose motionless really, and she's in the coma, and you can't really do anything about it. You might find a little bit of emotion now talking about it, but it was a really dramatic time for our family.
Can you tell me about the circumstances of the accident itself?
Well, seemingly a car came out of a driveway and we swerved to avoid the car, and subsequently we hit a wall. And it's a strange scenario because every second week my son goes to this person's house and their son comes to our house, and it so happened my son was actually in the house where the wall we struck. And it was unfortunate because he looked out the window and he saw the car onto the wall, and he asked the people in the house, "Is my mum and dad okay?" And that was dramatic because he was only 9 at the time, and it is very dramatic for a child to see that, to see his parents in the car and smoke coming out of the car and whatever. And I suppose it did affect him in the start, but he is kind of okay again now. But he speaks about it sometimes, but you know it really hurt in that time, you know.
And why did you photograph yourself while you were injured in bed? Isn't that a bit grisly?
When you're a photographer, there's always a camera nearby, you know. I said, well, why not photograph my injuries, you know? I can look back in years to come and say, well, look at the cast I have on, look at the cage and all this, and we can look back in years to come and say, and probably smile about it. But at that stage, I say, well, I know it seems kind of silly now looking back at it, taking photographs of your injuries, but, you know, it gives you that reminder that we nearly lost our lives that day. And it's a reminder to everybody as well that your life can change like with a blink of an eye, and it can be taken away from you. So it's a good reminder to us too, for people in the future to look, you're here today, we could be gone in 5 minutes.
You come home, your recovery, but the aftermath is such that you are unable to work.
I think when we came home first, reality set in. How am I going to support my family? And I suppose people say, well, you'll get help from this person, help from that person, but that doesn't happen when you're self-employed. you're self-employed. That means you're doing everything for yourself. No one's doing nothing for you. And I suppose for a while we were really worried. How are we going to support our kids? This, that, and the other. And we got a phone call one day from this lady in the parish, and she said, "Would you mind if we, as a community, helped you out while you're injured?" And I suppose everyone's proud in their own little self, and we say, but that goes out the window. What happens now is the community wants to help you, and we accepted it greatly. It was great to see the community behind us, you know what I mean? And we gradually got used to the idea, and we said yes. We'd love if he got behind us.
They were fantastic with us. I mean, with neighbours that came in and they put a stair lift in so Jim could get up and down to the toilet and things. And they were everything they could do, they did. They were brilliant with us.
And after all the help that you received from the community, you and Catherine wanted to give something back.
They were so good to us, and how can you repay so many people? And I do a little bit of filmmaking. Obviously, I'm a professional photographer, but I do a bit of filmmaking. I said, why not make a documentary about the parish? It was never before done. And it will be something for, I suppose, the people of the parish to cherish in years to come, that they can see their community in a different light. It took nearly 2 years to make the documentary because I wanted to capture it as natural as I could. Capture the people as they are now, because you could be here tomorrow, in 10 years' time, that person could be gone. And they always say, oh, I wish we had filmed him, I wish we had filmed her. But now we've done it. And I think it was something to give back to the parish. And when we showed it in SEAMUS in Tralee, we had a full house, and I must say now, the response I got from it was fantastic.
It's history, it's there for the kids, for the future generations coming up, that they'll know. Because a lot of these stories would be lost otherwise if you don't document them,
You're very welcome back to Fenit in County Kerry, and this evening we have been featuring the work of local photographer and filmmaker James McCarthy, who has made a documentary about his beloved village. Well, Fenit is first and foremost a fishing village, and like all such villages has had its fair share of tragedies. And in the course of his work, James has filmed the choosing of a suitable memorial to all of those who have died at sea.
Every sailor knows that the sea is a friend made enemy, and every shipwrecked soul knows what it is to live without intimacy.
This monument means to me all my friends and my neighbours that I work with over the years. I have worked with people from honest to God families, and they were lost at sea, and I think it's a great thing on behalf of the community and the surrounding areas and people from outside of this port that have been lost at sea. I think it's great for the local community and people that go to sea every day when they pass the big island here, the Seine, bring it up on top of it, past the lighthouse, and think that you're going out there working a day's work, but you might never return. That's the gamble every fella has to take when he's leaving here in the morning, and that's the way life is, and you either go working or you stay at home.
The project started in 2007 when Mary Kelly met family members of one of the other fishermen that was lost at sea with their husband Tucker, and they had come to Fenit to see his last port, and were surprised that there wasn't anything there to mark their voyage there and the loss of their life. So Mary had approached me as a member of the Harbour Board to see if there was any way the Harbour Board would agree to erecting a commemorative plaque or something, so that when family members came in the future, and that they would have something there to see, and that the community were marking the loss of their sons and their husbands' lives.
Well, of course, fundraising was a big part of the monument, because even though we were applying for a grant, we had to raise X amount of money. And one of the ways we did it was that we had about 18 women took part in the Flora mini marathon in Dublin the 1 June bank holiday weekend, which was fantastic. We had a great day and raised over about €3,500 for it.
The idea that I liked the best, and as it turned out the committee liked the best, was of a fisherman standing, fixing his nets, looking out to sea, and possibly thinking about and remembering about the fisherman and his comrades who have gone and the sea have taken them, and I suppose they haven't come home. Once I have established how the statue is going to look, then what we do is we do the initial sketches, and then we do is construct a steel armature. Around the steel armature, then we put chicken wire. We'll call it chicken wire, it's just a mesh. And from there, then we build up a clay, and then until eventually the clay statue is completely finished to look exactly like what we're looking at behind us here. The process, the clay process, which is probably the longest part of the process, can take anything up to 4 months. From there, then we take silicone molds, plaster molds. We break the statue down into many constituent parts to cast them in bronze using the lost wax process. Then the statue then is all the parts are individually finished, and then the whole lot is welded up together again. And then that's it. The statue is done and ready for delivery.
My brother Patrick, who was locally known as Pa, was a fisherman and who was lost at sea a number of years ago. For our own family, the Egan family in Fenit, this will mean so much to us because it'll be memory of Patrick, or Pa, my brother.
My uncle Pa drowned at sea a few years ago here in Fenit. This memorial will be a place for his many nieces and nephews who he loved dearly and looked after us all in his own individual way. It'll be somewhere for us to go and remember our Uncle Pa.
Well, the monument means an awful lot to me, my family and the extended family, as I think it captures the essence of the fisherman as he prepares to go fishing. And for us to have Tucker's name down on the monument, together with not only the fishermen that were lost at sea with him that day, but with his friends and neighbours, means so much.
My brother CONNOLLY was drowned here on 13th July 1965, and it's great that all the fishermen are being remembered here today, and their names will be there for future generations to see. And on behalf of my own family, I'd like to thank the Fenit Fishermen's Association for this fine monument.
A really beautiful bronze by West Clare sculptor CONNOLLY, making a fitting tribute to the many fishermen lost at sea.